Okay, we'll start off, first, we'll open the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing for anyone who has any comments or would like to address the board in the revenue neutral rate or the budget. It's coming here. Somebody's right. If not, we'll move forward, and I move to approve resolution 090825-A, resolution expressing the property taxation policy of USD 379 Clay County, Kansas, with respect to the revenue neutral tax rate for financing the budget for 2025-2026.
Second.
And second, all those in favor?
Has to be roll call. doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Andy Alt,
Yes.
Jason Bergston,
Yes.
Jeff Benson,
Yes.
Tracy Claeys,
Yes.
Linda Slichter,
Yes.
Hannah Sterling.
Yes.
Victor,
Motion carries 6-0. With that, we'll close the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing and call to order the regular meeting. So first thing we need is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
In a second, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. And then we'll have the, let's see, your pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Appreciate everybody coming tonight, the meeting, showing interest, and all those watching. Past meetings are available also on the school's website, YouTube. And with that, we'll move on to presentations.
Thanks. We're up. Thanks for coming. Here. Where you-
Side
Give you a bouncy ball set.
Rather not. Thank you. My name is Jessica Lindsley and I'm a senior manager with Barney and Associates CPAs. And I'm here just to present the results of the audit. This is a little bit different this year because we're presenting a draft report. Hopefully you received a memo from April Swartz, which is the audit partner. This is due to the federal government. We're required for the single audit, part of your audit, which is the federal award audit, to base our testing off of what they call a compliance supplement. And each year it's issued, usually by June, and as of right now, it is not. And so we base our testing procedures. There's a draft one out there that the federal government has issued. We did all of our testing. It was the exact same as the prior year. So we don't anticipate any changes, but they're telling all CPAs we can't issue a final report until they get that issued to us. So we don't anticipate any changes, so we're gonna present the draft report. If for any reason there will be changes, then we'd be happy to come back and do a final, but we really don't anticipate that. So what you have in your audit report should be what the final report will be. I will go through every page, but if you have any questions or want me to go through anything in more detail, just stop me and let me know. First off, and as part of the memo, as April stated, there were no findings or issues. We'd like to just start off with that. You had a clean opinion on your audit report this year, and that's both for your financial statement audit and your single audit, federal award audit. And we really want to thank Andrea and Brett. They're great to work with. They made the audit really smooth. We were actually able to come out here a couple, I don't know, maybe a month earlier than we have been the past few years and able to get that done. So kudos to them. I would, like I said, it was a clean opinion under the KMAG basis. And so there were no issues, no recommendations that we needed to bring to your attention. And what that means is we didn't have any audit adjustments. So the numbers that you see in your audit report are the same numbers that your management would have provided to you in any monthly or yearly report. So no adjustments on our end. Page 4 of the audit report, I always kind of like to go over this under the KMAG, which is the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide. This is your statement 1. This is your financial statement. Under that basis, it lists all of your funds on the left-hand side, and then you can see the beginning cash by fund, all of your receipts, expenses, and ending cash by fund. And then at the bottom, how that reconciles to your actual bank accounts at the different banks there below. I kind of reviewed our audit file, not a lot of changes from fiscal year 25 from 24. You have a little bit more in cash than you started with, and mostly that's in the capital outlay fund. But other than that, it was pretty consistent and comparable. Following your financial statement are the notes to the financial statements. There were no new notes that we had to include in the audit report this year. So it should be pretty standard. I do usually like to point out the debt note. That's something that citizens and the boards are usually interested in. Page 8 shows all of your long-term debt and then maturities out and for each future year. You did pay off your 2015 GO bond during 25, and then you have your 22 set to be paid off in a couple years after that, which then just leaves the lease purchase for the HVAC equipment. So not a lot there. There were no statute violations and no, so you did not go over budget on any of your funds, and you did not have any negative cash in any of your funds. So we had no statute violations to note in the report. Schedule 1 on page 13, that's where we can see each of your budgeted funds. And they'll be listed out there with your certified budget amount, and then your actual expenses to see if any were over budget, but you did not have any over budget. And then it goes through each of your funds in more detail by the budgeted line items. Again, I won't go through all of those, but if you have any questions, let me know. Following that, we do have a schedule for your activity funds and your agency funds. And then in the very back is the federal award audit information. This year we tested ESSER and special education. So it's the last year of ESSER, and then because of the co-op, it's usually that is a normal program that we'll probably end up testing every year. When we do a federal audit, we have to test internal controls as well as compliance. And so there are 2 reports out there in the back. That one goes over the government auditing standards for internal controls, and one goes over the compliance requirements for those specific grants. And we did not have any findings or issues with either one of those grants. I will point out, I don't think it'll affect your district too much, but they are raising the threshold for the federal audits. And so it's going to $1 million for next fiscal year. You're gonna probably be over that each year. But it will also kind of adjust what we test, and I would anticipate, testing special education probably every year unless you get another large grant, kind of outside of KSDE, but that is a change coming for fiscal year 26. Do you have any questions or anything you'd like me to go over further? To point out, we are available to you, the board, throughout the whole year. It's covered under your audit agreement with us. And so if you ever have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to myself or April, or Brett and Andrea can get a hold of us as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda, any questions? On anything in the consent agenda?
Question on the VHS contract. Auditorium's still not done. Further contract, it says $500 per day will come out the bill. From August 1st.
It could, yeah. So they had a back order curtain and some lights adjusting. They're actually gonna be here in the morning. But because we did not need to use that, we didn't have a function, it wasn't gonna disrupt the learning day. We didn't implement that penalty. Because it wasn't effective.
Yeah, but then we might as well not even put it in bid. If we're not gonna enforce it, because then that doesn't make them push their people to get the stuff to us. I mean, they're the ones that filled it in and wrote it out at that rate.
Yeah, and we would have if it was impacting student, but it wasn't impacting anything. For operation.
That just, that leaves the door open for everything there. Well, it's not gonna impact what we're doing, so just take as long as you want. It's kind of like the concrete up there that we approved 2 months ago. It's supposed to have been done Thursday of this week. They haven't even started. So what are we gonna do there? Now it's the middle of football season and
Well, their due date's the 18th.
It's Thursday.
Contract.
or next week. I mean, I'm just saying.
Contract says the 11th.
I mean, we gotta hold people's feet to the fire and then, I mean, that's if we're gonna do a bond issue and we can't, just take, it's not gonna affect us, so take your time. We can't do that. In that bill list, is that 78,000 their last bill?
No, we held back contingency or the reserve.
But right now, at $500 a day, they're 20,000 in the hole. From when they said they'd have it done.
It wasn't impacting operations and so.
That's not the point of having that in your bid.
But if you
I mean,
have it
that's
in
the-
there, we reserve the right to implement it or not implement it.
We is this board. So, I mean, if it's in the bid and they're not attending to what they need to attend to. I mean, that's something for us to decide whether we're gonna implement or not. As far as that goes.
I guess I feel differently if it was manpower or something like that, but a backward curtain, if they didn't have control over, I mean, is that how you would impact your own personal business? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't tell some, I don't have any end dates on my business and that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, I just know
I mean-
construction costs, I mean, the construction supplies are so hard to get.
Well, they didn't mount the lights correctly on the front. They gotta redo all that.
So that one I could
They
see
were
the implementation.
mounted to spec and the staff asked for a change.
And if we enforce it on other contracts, then why are we not enforcing it on this?
I'll just put it this way, enforce it on our teachers.
Yeah.
So why don't we enforce it on the people that do work for us?
It impacted operations.
But I do think moving forward, that needs to come to the board. And it's for the board to decide on those types of things.
Well, I think
Because
the
it is a
project
legal
needs to be,
contract.
yeah, but I think the contract, we accepted the contract as a
Right.
board. And the contract hasn't been executed the way it was supposed to be. So anything changed from that contract ought to come back to us to make a decision whether we're gonna do it or not do it.
And I think it should be that we are gonna implement it unless the board says we're not going to. since that's what's in the contract.
I'm just,
So I'm agreeing with you, Jeff, on that.
I know, but it's just, you can't just let, cause those big companies and BHS is a big company for this area. They got a lot of things going on and they can put something on the back burner and go do something else, or they'll do it.
Anything else on consent agenda?
I move to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second, all those in favor? All those opposed? That's two. Next is, reports. Versus, board reports. Go ahead.
I wanted to specifically call out Andrea again, thanks for all the work, and the team getting the stuff ready for the audit. I know it's not the most glamorous or the things that look as shiny, but it takes a lot of work and we appreciate it. And then, specifically want to thank the teachers and parents who have reached out to board members regarding the future bond issue. I for one appreciate the communication, the input, and I hope more will continue to send messages to us. Let us know your thoughts.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to state that, thank you to our grounds and maintenance and the other personnel that kicked in, to get the buildings ready to go and here before our school start date. And then I've heard a lot of great positive feedbacks from the landscaping and some of the other repairs that's been done. So thank you.
Anything else with that? On to the KSB legislative for funding, and that's what all this packet is. I had August make sure you got everything that was handed out. And so, they went through things and whatever's highlighted in their delegate assembly in there is what changed from a year ago. I would say that their biggest concern is the change in formula. They're starting to put out, you'll see a lot of that information is positive is a change in the formula that may happen here in 2 years. And so they're going to gear up to start on that this year. KSB is and people want to simplify it. Well, that's not good for smaller districts to simplify it with all the different weightings. And so their push is going to be pretty much to leave it the same, the way I understand it, as far as the formula goes of schools. But that's the information there, and it was a good meeting, and I think there's a lot of good information there. Okay. What else? Not, we'll move on. Brett, superintendent report.
I think the biggest thing is that you can read through the rest of the stuff. This is our year to participate in the statewide teacher retention survey. We do it every other year. And then we measure data to help us set goals. And so we'll do that again this year. And then winter, spring, we'll do the classified one also. A couple of monthly reports and some data on what our employees said about the new benefits enrollment and programming and service they experienced. It was a really positive survey results and lots of good comments in there and lots of good feedback on what our employees' perceptions were on their new benefit package. And then the enrollment chart is at the bottom. And one thing to remember is this is straight head count. This is not FTE. We don't do FTE until after September 20th. And so FTE and headcount, as you know, are very different pieces of information, both important, but FTE is what we're funded on, not headcount. And so FTE does change, namely in preschool, we have some part-time students, some part-time enrollment, things like that do affect FTE. So this is preliminary headcount and FT will come. Whenever we get our September 20th report back after that date. So, head count wise, and again, it's really hard to talk numbers right now because FT is what we're funded on, but actual head count, that's kind of information. 50 students head count wise that we're down this year over last year. So you can see the enrollment by grade and by building. And so not a surprise, we knew it was coming. Some good news is if you look at our senior classes this year, if we continue smaller kindergarten classes, that'll be a little bit easier to plan for and adjust for the following year. Just because it's a little bit smaller, some senior classes, but Wakefield's is a nice size, but for Clay Center, it's a smaller class, and so it'll be easier to adjust to smaller enrollment coming in. So, take any questions if you have any.
It's because we lost 10 students going from junior to or sophomore to junior in the high school, and same as 5 over at Wakefield, you know, and that, you know, I thought that was interesting.
How many of those students are from Miltonville?
Ballpark, new Miltonville students, 12 to 15-ish, somewhere in there.
Without identifying, do we know why we lost that many juniors?
Lots of people moving and lots of people moving in.
It's gonna really hit us another year, because the poor Holly people are gonna be shipped out. Starting next summer.
It's not a big difference, but on the chart, it says total head count 1221, but the monthly messenger says 1227.
Yeah, that's sometimes Power School adjusting to matching with Info Snap and some ins and outs and some moving around. I mean, like today, I know we enrolled at least one other student. And so some of that's the timing of when you pull the report
Okay.
based on who's coming in and out.
Okay.
And what's the actual date of the September
22nd.
22nd this year?
Because the
20th falls on a Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, when we get that number, would you forward that?
Yep.
To everybody on the board when we get that, what that number is? All right, any other questions? Or Fred? If not, Anita's report is in there, she's not here. Is that, I did see on there where she said as of this board needing approval of the position to be full. I know that probably could have changed today, but that's a good thing. That is a good thing, so. And then next is Jackie.
Something on count day, any student who's enrolled but absent on the 22nd. We still keep all of our data until October 4th. So we have basically a 2-week window to show another day of attendance, so. Our school will be even more, kind of gray looking from the 22nd to the 4th, because we can't exit any students until. After the 4th, if they shall move or whatever, so. I'm trying to think if is there any questions on anything else that I put in there? It's nice to see strong numbers in both of our high schools of our number of students taking dual credits, and I also have in there our project lead numbers. They're down a little bit, but I think that's also probably reflective of just the overall numbers in elementary, comparatively. No news on federal. I know that was something you guys had asked about last month. No news on the federal side. And I hope next month to bring you some driver's ed options and ideas of what we're considering, so.
That'd be good. Good. All right, anything else? Any questions? Exactly. No, we'll move on to the discussion. Business items. First is the approval of the budget. Any questions on this next year's budget? Bring up.
Yeah, I do,
Go
Jerry.
ahead.
On that. I was going over some details here on 25-26 proposed budget. And I was looking at line item code 14, bilingual education. I see that we had 5,000 budgeted in 2023, 2024. And it looks like we got proposed at 20,000 as of this coming budget. Now, I was looking back also on the actual expenditures. I see we had 5,000 that was expended in 2022, 2023. 5,000 that was expended in 23 and 24. We had proposed budget for this, for 24-25 fiscal year of 15,000. And it looks to me like, if I was looking here correctly, that we transferred 13,000 some odd dollars out of it during our transfers. So why are we budgeting so much more in this code than what is necessary? I don't understand why we're basing our proposed budgets off of a higher expense when the track record shows the other way.
Well, there's two things. One is budget authority, and you'll find that we do that in every fund, that we budget higher than what we're gonna spend. And so if you go down in the budget, you'll oftentimes see an other line. And that's not a code available in our software to actually spend, so we do that for budget authority. It's also, we estimate for what we know, how many bilingual students are gonna be attending. And if that number of students increases, so the clock hours that we're providing that service increases, we raise that budget amount. So those would be the two reasons.
Okay, now would that be also the reasons for the driver's training, code 18, and for the professional development that was budgeted for code 26?
But yes, it's budget authority.
We didn't have driver's training last year, Dave, but we do plan on them get some options to do it this year.
Okay, well, my question is that in 22 and 23, year 2022 and year 2023, we had actual expenditures and driver's training at 20,770. It looks like in 23 and 24, 18,313, according to this. We budgeted 86,000 for 2024 and 2025 in driver's training. And that's why I didn't know for sure if I see a large increase, and I just didn't know for sure if this is what.
Sometimes, and I don't know, we haven't probably, I don't know, but we have bought a fleet vehicle out of that account and we use it for driver's ed. But then after driver's ed's over, we put it back to a vehicle we can use elsewhere.
Okay,
So you gotta have enough
We
money.
always build up that authority, so if something happens, we can do.
We have
Right.
bought a vehicle out of that account, and then, but that's the, when we get it, it gets the extra brake put in it and everything, and then when they're done using it for driver's ed, we put it in our fleet for other purposes. So that account, sometimes you gotta build that up. I just wanna go back to the audit. And I don't know how many of you guys look at this, but the budgeted line item, just to tell you, we're talking about the budget and budget authority. The budgeted line item was 36,417,000. Actual expenditures was 30,682,000. So we spent $5 million less than what we budgeted. But if we don't put that extra 5 million in there, if something happens, we can't do it if we want to. So that, I don't know what page that is in that, but on page 13, it shows that breakdown of all that. And it shows you the bottom line item where we budgeted 36 million, but we only spent 30. So a lot of that's in there just in case. And you hope that just in case doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. So.
And a big example is like capital outlay. If we carry 800 to 1 million in capital outlay for emergencies, we budget the authority to spend that whole 800 to 1 million, knowing that we're only going to spend that if worst case happens. You know, you get a horrible storm damage and you have several deductibles, or you lose a boiler that's several $100,000. And so, but if we don't budget that, then we don't have the authority and we can't expend those dollars to make that repair. Or if we have bilingual, if we have 5 bilingual students enrolled that we didn't know about, and we're gonna increase those clock hours by that amount, if we don't budget to spend the balance that we have in there, we can't spend that money on those students unless we republish, and republishing costs money. That was a big discussion at the thing too. I didn't talk about that, was the carryover. You know, having to put that in, whenever you carry over, you still got a budget for authority just in case something comes up and you want to spend it. That's a big thing for the legislature. Is trying to address and change that's coming up on.
I have seen a large increase in proposed budget. There, well, actually, 2024-2025 full budget was a large increase in professional development, 167,395. And I see that we have 128,000 proposed budget professional development in 25-26 is proposed budget. So that's what I'm just curious to see. It just seems like it's a large budgeted amount when the actuals reflect different.
Like I say, it's taking what we got for carryover and sticking it in there, so we have authority to spend it in case something like that. Weird, it's just a different way of budgeting than you.
Wish you could do that at home, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, budget? If not, I move to adopt the 2025-2026 budget, approved resolution 090825-B local option budget percentage.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Fallen planning. Is that, so, I sent you a thing, I came up and with Brett, went through the spreadsheet, and came up with basically the 2 options that we kind of talked about. You know, one, adding some classrooms to Lincoln and doing some relocating, and one was just a basically maintenance. And so that's ones that I threw out there. I thought just after listening was the 2 things that I, you know, I'd like to give the public opinion a chance to on both of those, you know, but any discussions or, and here's the thing, the final detail doesn't have to be done tonight. There's be adjustments, and the main thing is the terms, you know, is that I think I put on the maintenance one, it was like $10 million on the maintenance one. And really the reason for that is if you try to do anything less, you get into 6 or 6, you really can't accomplish much. And so with the 10, we can knock out all the roofs, we can do, and I think we can take care of some things. Then the other one would be, I think it was like a $12 million one over 15 if we did the other.
Over 20.
Over 20, oh, 15 and 20, yeah. So do the other 2. So When I came up here, I used Brett's office because it's easy to click on the little different projects, and so that's kind of what I put together and just told you, if you like, had your thoughts on it. I got it to you. I think I got it to you a day earlier than when I said I would get it to you. And so just kind of your thoughts on it and
What's the urgency to spend so much money on playgrounds? I'm asking you, somebody, I mean, I think I added up there in one of them proposal, it was $853,900 and some dollars projected to spend on playgrounds. What's the need for that when we got need in other areas?
Well, number one, it came out as, it's a safety deal, it's ADA. They're very accessible to all the communities, and so they can get a lot of community use, but ADA accessibility and their age, I mean, they haven't been replaced for a long time, and so it was something.
So we're gonna stress ADA outside, but we're not gonna have ADA inside
Well,
unless we go to the second option.
Well, so there's a lot of factors there, and I think the big thing for me is from my perspective is, this, as much time as you guys have spent on it, this is round one, and so if you guys can come to some alignment on these two options and kind of their structures and their frameworks, my hope would be that the next step is that you bring on an architect, and the architect can take these and go to the community and go to staff and go do.
Why would we
community surveys.
have our architect do that?
That's part of their job is onboarding for pre-bond planning is to go help get community.
That's something new.
No,
Well, this is the third bond issue I've been involved in this district. We've never had architects go out in politics for us.
it's very common in today's industry, and I think you'll hear that from both the people that are here.
How do they know what we need in our district?
They don't, they go talk to the community and see what the community wants.
Okay, so
They do
then what if the
community
community
survey.
comes back and doesn't want any of this? They want 50 different other things.
They could, and that's what that partner will come back and discuss with you. And
But
say,
that's, as a board, that's not what we feel is important for the district as elected people to this board. That we feel is necessary for this school district. That's where the community should come to the person that represents them and says, hey. This is what we think. And if we want to go out and commute and do it to the community, we ought to set up a meeting as a board and go there and let them ask us questions.
And that very well could be part of the process still.
Well, I've never seen where the architect's gone out and asked the community to get input on what the school board should decide to put on a bond issue.
They're there as a partner to help collect information for you to consider.
Well, that's fine in
That's
all
new.
retrospect, you know, which I don't have no problem with that, but I do have a problem with us as a board. My opinion, as a board, not going, taking effort to go out to the community. And one-on-one with the community, but presenting them with the facts, getting the feedback of what we propose, what they want to propose. I mean, I don't feel like we need
I think
a third party. I mean, I'm taking this as a third party.
Well, my experience with the last two bond issues in this school district, the one in 2001 and the one in 2015, this group of people right here talked and decided what they were going to put on the bond issue. And then they went out and had meetings and things in the schools and everything and talked to the public. And then they came back and said, okay, we've learned this. We're going to take this off, or we're going to change this to an alternate or whatever. But, you know, as a board, we haven't even decided what we're going to put on it. You know, whether we're going to go a consolidation route or whether we're going to do a maintenance route. We haven't even made that decision.
But I
So-
guess we left here with the opinion of getting opinion from the communities between those two things, which they prefer. Between two plans like that, which they would prefer. I guess that's where the architects can send out the surveys, do that stuff, and get which one the community prefers. And so that's, I guess, we're at the stage that I feel like
I
that.
don't think it's even financially responsible to present the 20-year one, because you're getting $1.6 million more for 5 years. And you're paying $1.3 million for 5 years to get 1.6. So you're, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not very smart, in my opinion, to pay over $4 million in interest to get $1.6 more million for 5 more years. And in the last month, I haven't heard a single person that wants us to consolidate between patrons and teachers.
All the more reason to get input from the public on which of these two options they think would be more likely to be approved. And if they have these listening sessions that are not attended by us, they'd be more willing to speak out. And if they all say, hey, we don't want consolidation, we want maintenance upgrade, then we know where to go. Instead of just whoever catches us at the coffee shop. We have a better profile of the community, and a better idea of what the whole community thinks. I like the idea of us not leading the sessions because we're all quite opinionated, myself as well. And if you have a different agency come out and run it in the same way you would do a focus group or a research study, then you have a little bit more objective.
Well, if that's the case, then you have a constituent that asks questions that ask questions to a board member or board members. Then they're gonna relay the information back to us, and then we're supposed to get back with them. I mean, if you're not there, that's the only way it's gonna happen.
I don't think anyone said you can't be at any of these meetings. I've never read or heard that anywhere. I don't know.
No more
Not if
than
there's
three.
more than
No more
three
than
of
three.
us.
Then what's the point of sending an architect in our place?
And just to be clear, more than three of you can be there. You just can't discuss. You don't want to huddle in the back altogether or whatever.
The architects should have the ideas on the plans and all that and be able to answer any questions with that in that regard. You know, and they're the ones who are actually, I think it's worth for 30 days. Basically, that's what it is, about 30 days to have them collect as much information as they can to poll the community. And do that.
At what cost is that?
They're gonna go over their fees.
That's what I'm saying. It's gonna cost us when we could send out whatever surveys and whatever as board.
Brett, did you talk to other school districts that have had bonds lately and talked about their process for how they went about this?
All of them do this.
That's where we came up with the
Every single
idea.
one.
I mean, it's been 10 years since our last bond, so I'm sure things have changed quite a bit. So that's where we came up with the thought that it goes through the architects.
Well, they're your
That's what-
partner to help you collect that information, and every bond issue that I know of has brought on a partner, an expert to help go solicit that information, gather documents, help build plans, help talk about different ideas, be here as a voice for you as the board to ask questions too about what this project means, what this looks like, what this costs, what this change could be. And so that's the idea of bringing that partner on at this point in time to assist you in answering questions. I feel like I've led you as far as I can with the amount of knowledge that I have. And I'm at a point where, I think we're all at a point where we need some expert advice on how to proceed forward, the best path, the best plan, how to design projects, what costs mean, how to timeline things out. This is what they do every day in their world. And to Linda, to answer your question, every district that I know of that's passed a bond has brought on a partner in this manner. And I think you'll probably hear that from both our partners today. And all the references they provided that this has been a successful path to getting to a bond election.
This is the 20 or the consolidation one. For 5.6 million. I know it's not all line itemed out, which would be nice, but. That's the cheapest that I've seen it so far in the 20 presentations we've had on what it costs to add on. And it says everything, I just find it really hard in all these where it says everything in maintenance, everything in maintenance, everything in I don't see how you can do all that for. And consolidate at the same time and add on income. So.
And that's
I'd like
another
some
question that,
Information on that.
so if you bring an architect on board, that's where I'm saying I'm at a point to where I'm limited. Like I can't tell you the details to that. I am living off of the numbers that VHS provided, that have contingency, that have design fees, that have all of those
I
costs.
understand that, but on this, it says everything in maintenance, I'm just trying to figure out how you guys made this to get to this 5.6 million and 1.6 million in CCC, and like, what is everything in maintenance, like, we have lots of stuff in maintenance. And
Everything in this maintenance plan,
Yeah, that's correct.
everything on
Everything
this
in the
side
maintenance plan
plus
Plus that.
or removal of,
so now you're adding 3 classrooms for 3.5 million.
well, no. You're
You know,
getting,
the other one was,
but you're
I
taking,
remember the other one was like 4 classrooms when we started,
What about a lunchroom?
so we cut off of that. So there would be a smaller addition to the lunchroom.
Well, again, that's why my recommendation is to bring on a partner that you can ask, an expert that you can ask those questions to, and they will give you line item answers. I am working off of the information from our facility audit that we have right now.
We could, if there's, if the both are here, and there's one of those you guys wanna throw out, somebody make a motion and we move on, we take one plan, I mean, I don't wanna waste it, but I think it would be a good idea to give the community, let them give their input on the 2 different plans, not that, and those aren't the final details, they can always be juggling. Once the architects and the information we give, we can always juggle things. My thing on the playgrounds, Jeff, is that you would try to look at some of those things that before the next bond issue, this is gonna take that long. Those playgrounds are gonna have to be dealt with again.
well, understand
And
that,
so I think they need to be updated
and I understand that too, but
and they're expensive no matter what, so.
But if you're gonna make everything ADA accessible on the playground, then we need to make everything ADA accessible in our buildings.
The difference is,
Difference is
We
in Garfield,
can-
that's over $1 million.
well, and the difference is we can move teachers so that the kids get the full experience of the classroom without us making the buildings ADA compliant, but we're not giving them the opportunity to be ADA compliant on the playground. So we can switch whatever classes are on 2nd floor of Garfield down to the 1st floor and give the kids the same educational experience, but they're not getting that full immersive experience on those playgrounds unless we do the upgrades that we've been talking about for, 14 years without ever having a capital outlay to do it.
And so what's the time frame? What's time frame then on these ADA playgrounds?
That is as you like to say, in the weeds. Let's figure out if we're going to put it on the bond issue. Let's get the bond issue approved. Let's have the money to do it. And then we can figure out our timeline on how we're gonna actually get them done.
Does the bond be, they would be ready for the fall of 2027? Yeah, fall 27.
Meaning even really the 25, 26, the fall of 26 arguable. I mean, the logistics of that are probably not very realistic, but you would have the funds available to start projects as soon as 2026.
I mean, I feel like that's the equivalent of the high school, the Clay Center High School new gymnasium floor. Oh, I think we can do it later. We'll put it off. We'll find capital outlay for it. We never do. So if we can never find the money for that capital outlay for those projects, then that needs to be put on this bond issue. But that's my opinion. I'd like to hear the public. I want to hear what the people have to say. And not just the ones that are specifically at the coffee shop at 9 AM, which I love them, but I also want everybody's opinion. Or as many as we can from the community.
I thought this was a good starting point. I mean, there's merit to both sides, so. You
And
take
we
this
can
and get some input.
November
and go from
meeting
there.
and have a really good, we'll have good set of data and November meeting and.
November, October.
Yeah.
So you're-
November, October.
Well, we could start in October, but probably make the final decision in November.
Collect input in October, decision in November, and it's still this group that decides which one goes on the bond.
Yeah, and then that paperwork is turned in December to the county clerk. So we really got time to do this, to get this information and I do think it's the best way to get the most information is to do this. And like I say, it is part of the process of what other districts are doing. So.
Why is roofing removed on some of the buildings to capital outlay and
That's to make
others?
room for the addition at Lincoln.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We do the-
and we got 1.986 million in our capital outlay. And if we have a $200,000 roof, we might as well pay for it out of capital outlay and keep it off the bond and do something else that we can't do. I mean, according to that audit earlier, there was 1.986 million in capital outlay. Unencumbered money. So that means it's there.
But I think about 1 million of that is what they carry over each year.
1.2 maybe.
What's our catastrophic deductible? Tornado hits the building?
It's the.
But you got
The
continue.
higher carryover this year was because of the lease buyout that we did.
We get an architect on board, saying, again, we get more direct numbers. That could all be adjusted. For what ends up being the best plan with what we decide.
Andrew, what were you gonna say? 1.9 was high, but there's a reason for it and I can't remember why.
It's 730,000 more than what the
But
beginning
I can't
budget
remember.
was.
Are we talking about?
Capital outlay.
Spreadsheet or the fund?
Capital outlay in that audit that we just heard earlier tonight. Started out at 1.26 million and ended 1.986. 740,000 difference.
So the bus didn't get purchased before the end of the year. It got rolled into next, so we didn't actually spend that money, even though it was part of the last year's plan. It will actually come out this year.
And the auditorium project,
And the auditorium project, we also had the
we
spectrum.
didn't get entered till after July 1st.
So, and then
And so there's
the spectrum
350.
Well, I'm just saying there's that money in there unencumbered, so that means it's still there. It hasn't been earmarked for nothing.
And then we got paid for the spectrum lease, so there's 700 there. And then we transferred an extra 250.
But is that where our money that from the lease that we sold went in that account?
so if you
So
go,
that's
up-
part of it.
if you go up and look at the capital outlay fund today. What was on the treasurer's statement this month, it's way less than 1.7 million because we've captured all of that through our summer projects. It just wasn't captured on June 30th when we did it.
And we closed out
Well, regardless. There's money there to do a roof if we need to.
100%.
And on the maintenance one,
Well,
we need something for the SAC office. Like, I don't know where that number was.
That's an alternate on the bond.
267,000, oh yeah, there it is, 267,000 is the SAC office.
Yeah.
You know,
Shannon, you were
if
saying?
that's all it is, we just usually pay for that.
Well, I think I remember quite a few meetings back, Brett, that you said you thought we could handle roofs out of capital outlay. So I'm just curious why they're even on the list. Because if you have to stagger those, how do you do that in a bond? Because I've always been under the impression they've been staggered because of their cost. How you replace them. Correct me if I'm,
Yeah, so if you think about like a maintenance bond, the idea would be to knock out as many deferred maintenance items to cover the length, the term of the bond. So if you're doing a true maintenance bond, you're not doing anything else, then you knock out as many of those deferred maintenance items as you can. And we are very deferred, you're right, Shannon, we're very diversified in our roofs because we knocked out a bunch in 2015 and then about in the last 5 to 10, we've knocked out a lot more. And so then another 5 to 10, if we knock out the rest, we'll kind of have 3 phases that will be easily managed. But that's the reason why for a deferred maintenance would be all of those big ticket items that you would take care of, as many of those as you could.
So
And then hopefully keep your capital outlay levy down.
So that Excel spreadsheet that was I have here in front of me in January 2021 at the time continuum for other roofs. Then was the SAC roof included in that too?
I don't have that in front of me, I'm not sure.
Because I'm not showing it here on the paper. That's what I was curious. I have all their other district facilities except for that. The only thing commented on here is SAC Unified District Offices. Updated January 8th, 2021. Rate roofing repairs to corners and edges, no charge. So
I was in the office, we called Ray. And this building would have to be redone.
That we.
Well, I don't think so if we got leaks.
Right, but I mean, that's why it's included in there. It would have to be redone. When we put in that 260, or I think he said 130,000 around there was his estimate to replace this roof.
Okay, but I'm talking about in the past. What's in the past, was it ever included in the time consortium? Or time continuum? I mean, I'm looking at it right here and it's.
What's the
it's
question,
Excel.
Dave? Like, what do you need? Not understand.
When the roof was done on this building,
Oh, I have no idea.
was there any type of proactive in the time continuum to include this building?
That's
Yeah, they looked at it when they did the roofs that time they came around and did roofs. They did it. That's when they.
That's probably when they did those
They
repairs.
did those repairs in the corner.
So that was in 2021.
I think they come around and look at all of our roofs
Yeah.
Once a year.
once a year. Say, hey, this one really needs, is the next one we really need to do.
So last year we had the roof leaking. Over here on the other side of the building.
Here,
Yeah, then was there any repairs that was done at that point in time, or was Ray contacted?
So it's what happened was the roof drain got plugged, it was ice. And so, but yes, they did come and address the issue.
But do we have like a contract with them? Do we have, any type of verbatim type of agreement with Ray Roofing that, okay, they're gonna take care of all of our district facilities? Or let's say a roof this size that we can have a local company, roofing company, that we can bid out and have them do the roof on this instead of just having Ray do it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, is there some kind of constraints to where we can allow a local roofing company like McGee Roofing to actually submit some type of proposal, or just say, hey, we can't do all your buildings, but we can do some?
I feel like we're getting off the agenda a little bit. It's not really related to the bond issue. That might be a question when we talk about putting bids out after a bond is approved and we know what we want to be buying. But I feel like that's not a discussion for what's on our agenda right now.
And I'll just say out of with the deepest amount of respect, but if you guys give me a heads up with your questions before a meeting, I can plan and prepare and research and have answers for you. But this is a big district and a big operation, and I can't on the fly reasonably do research in a public meeting. Even on budget, the budget's 400 pages long. I'm happy to answer any question that anyone has. But if you give me a heads up and allow me some time, I will spend time answering your questions, doing research and making sure I'm prepared. But playing stump the chump, I don't think is fair to me to have to come up with answers on the fly when I've had no opportunity to do any research and answer your questions. And I'll just reiterate, I am happy to answer any question that any of you have at any time. But please don't expect me to do it on the fly and surprise. My number one thing for you guys is to not surprise you and not bring information to you that's a surprise. And I just ask out of respect for that in return.
Okay, but the bond does cover roofs.
Okay, so going back to
So,
what's our.
But that's what I'm saying is if you would have sent me those questions 4 days ago, I would have been able to answer all your questions. But I can't do that on the fly.
Then if you can't answer it right now, that's fine. I brought up a question, if you can't answer it, and then that's fine. I'm just stating that. So going back to the bonds, but what was reiterated earlier, is roofs is included, and some is, and some isn't.
Right, in the maintenance one, almost all the roofs are included. We go the maintenance route, almost every roof's included in there. That's on within the next so many years, almost every one. If we go the other route, no, not all of them are on there. They'll be scattered out and be taken care of through capital outlay. And that's kind of the tricky part of this, is once we decide to two, and then we get down to one, what projects we don't cover with the one that we put on the bond, we'll go back and put them into capital outlay and cover them through capital outlay. So it's really, we're trying to get the two things married together over the next 10 years is what we're trying to do.
Just, can you tell me if I'm wrong, but if all of our roofs are here on the maintenance upgrade, then rather than having that money come in and out of capital outlay, it'll be in this bond issue. And then the hope is that, each year when we're making our budget and we have to increase the LOB, that we wouldn't need to as much because we won't be buying new roofs.
Right, or the capital outlay, we can keep it down where we're below the 8 mils right now. We can keep it down there and not have to increase it with the more that we can cover through the maintenance. But tonight, I'm just trying to get, I know they're gonna be different, finalizing the final detail of each plan. We're not gonna get accomplished tonight, next month. I'm just trying to get accomplished the fact we have two options here. That I would like to is let's get some information from the community over the next month. And see which one, which one, and their ideas, I hope they come up with one or two things we didn't think of that can make it better for our students. If they do, my ego's not too big, say, hey, that's a hell of an idea. We need to include that in the bond. You know, that's what we're trying to get done over the next 30 days. And that's what I'm asking. Those two options, and that is worthy of getting information from the community.
So all of us around this table have done facilities tours numerous times. We've seen the needs, we've seen the repairs that need to be made. And so my concern is you put that out for a community. What happens when they pick this, and this, and it doesn't meet the need? It doesn't fix the things we need to fix.
Well, ultimately, Shane, that's our decision as the board. To do as much as with their input, but also financially, what we figure out is best with their input for the school district, and we vote on that and we decide. And if they don't like what happens, then I'll be gone, or whoever be gone in the next election. That's part of it, but Jeff is right. The final decision is ours to decide what we truly feel best with the input, what we need to do.
So why wouldn't we choose from one of these two options and then proceed?
Because I would like the community to have an input. There are two different options. One is adding to Lincoln School and the other one is truly maintenance. And I would like to see input from the whole community on which one they would prefer. That's why.
So at the end of the day, they give you their opinions, and then we still say, well, we have all these needs and they're not addressed, so we need to address them, so we throw that out. I mean, that's a concern I have. I feel like
I feel like some of these things are black and white, and some of them are subjective. So consolidation or not, that's a subjective. Roofs, kind of black and white. If we're gonna keep Wakefield open, we gotta fix the tunnel problem. The plumbing problem will be there. That's not pretty. That's not something that maybe, Joe, the key citizen, is gonna have on their list, but we as a board know we have to do that. So I
I
feel
took
like,
gym floor in there. It's such a big cost. We have to do that.
well,
So,
for
but
example,
those small details, I think we come back and finish after we get some input from the community on which one of the two plans that they feel is best, and then we have our discussion and.
I guess want to look at this. The consolidation, when it says everything in the maintenance bond, which that's impossible because it's only $1.6 million bond.
Yeah, but they can cut some out.
Yeah.
Right, that's my point. Like,
Right.
It's very
So there's
misleading.
some risks that's gonna be off
It's
there.
incredibly misleading.
So,
But
it's incredibly simplified so that we can try to get our heads wrapped around what we're looking at.
And I think one piece that will really help you guys, if you choose to bring an architect on board. The first thing they're gonna do is verify this data, verify the information, verify the cost of these projects, and be here at a meeting so you guys can ask these questions. And they can answer them from an expert side of the table, whereas I don't do construction for a job. I don't know cost per square foot. Right now, I just have a facility audit that's 100,000 foot view. And if you bring a partner on board, they're gonna come down to 100 or 10,000 foot. And they're gonna be able to answer these questions in more detail and more factually then I can't, because I am not the expert on the minute details of these things. And I don't think that's what you guys hired me to do, is be an expert on construction.
And I'm curious what the opposition is to public input. Is that? Okay, so is everybody?
I guess I think back to the school calendar. You know, we had a school calendar input before we even saw the calendars, and then we did something opposite, and you should see the lovely emails we got. And so, like, personally, I wouldn't vote for consolidation just because of the 4 years of being on the maintenance. Being on facility tours, like, if we put it off, some of this stuff off for another 15 years, sure, we can get some of this stuff in the capital outlay. But I think stuff's gonna be in pretty bad disrepair
I just think we
in
feel,
certain aspects of the district.
right, but I do feel like with the maintenance, the way it would be designed is, or the bigger one, the additions of the classroom is what we are leaving out there, can be taken care of in capital outlay. What would be that? I believe the two can be married together to do that. So, but I should say that, I would just like to get the input from the community on the two options and see how they feel. And just like that deal with the county, we made the decision we felt was best for the school district. It won't be any different than on this, when it's all said and done. I'm voting, the people in this room are the ones that decide what we feel like is best with the input that we had. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
And ultimately, if we get it wrong, the public has the final say. It has to pass a public.
Let's say their final say is at the ballot.
Right, yeah.
I don't care what we do, what we say, what we put on it.
Yeah, right.
It can be voted down.
But if we don't get public input and we vote against what the general consensus is, the bond won't pass and we won't have anything. Hence the purpose of getting the public input now, so what we put on the ballot actually aligns with what the majority of the voters want in this district.
And like I say, no, we can get an idea or two that, yeah, that makes more sense.
But we need to get an architect on board.
Right. To get the details and help us get with all that information. There's too much here in the district for person to do. So, but so these two options, I mean, they're gonna vary. We're gonna discuss them and change it, but are we on board with two options to present to the public here over the next month and get their input on those two things? One, we're gonna consolidate, losing students, we're gonna consolidate. This is our idea. What do you think of it? But I'm gonna say we're gonna leave everything the same, but here's a maintenance thing that we need to do to keep up. I know all the people I've talked to, they understand that we cannot take care of all the maintenance in the district based on our, it's impossible. Impossible.
We could just raise the mill levy 10 mils.
Right. And so,
And yeah, we've been down the consolidation road before, we did that. And we looked at it one time before when the state wasn't budgeting it, and we looked at trying to, how could we consolidate those schools, we thought about moving. Well, we talked about fifth grade up to junior high, fourth grade down, we looked at different things, at the time, it was,
Talked about third grade to Carpenter.
right. And I mean,
a lot of different things, just trying
We
to
had
eliminate
red.
one building, because our budget was to the point when the state wasn't funded, we had to do something.
On 4
And
years.
if we get to that point again, here with a bondage, you have some money to do something. At that point, you don't have state funding, you don't have the, enrollment enough to fund something to do something. It's just, you're in a stronger position to deal with that if we get to that point. Is the biggest thing for the consolidation. It's not really about making it,
so I'd like to close this part of the bond issue thing. Say those are the two options. There are gonna be changes to them, but that's the two.
I don't like the fact you call them options. I think you ought
What
to
would
say,
we call them?
I think you should say, should we do a maintenance bond or should we do a consolidation bond?
Okay.
Because if you give them an option, one or the other, because there's some of those things that, aren't on there that probably should be on there. And I think it's,
So the word, we want their opinion on a consolidation bond
or a maintenance.
or a maintenance bond. I'm fine with it being worded like that. I'm fine with worded like that.
And I'm not saying you can't use some of the points out of each one to say, hey, you know, this is something if they consolidate on the consolidation, if this is something they might do on the maintenance, this is some of the things they might do, but don't, you know. I mean, cause you put it out there, I mean, they might come up with all kinds of things.
Right. But they may come up with one or two things that.
Well,
doesn't
that's
make
fine,
sense.
that's fine.
Yeah, you put something out like this and they like, oh, well,
Well, this has already
you've
been
already got
out.
it.
I think this has already been out.
Well, but then people think it's already, you know, that's what we're doing, and it's like, no, this is draft one and draft, you know, what's 100.
Yeah, you look at our numbers in 4 years, we'll have less than 300 people in the high school. At the current numbers, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but yeah, but it still takes money to you know,
Yeah.
to form classrooms and do stuff, and when you don't have money to do that, that's what you run into, that's what we ran into last time, so.
But consolidation, you still have that building. You haven't lost the building, you just have less people in it.
You lose this,
You lose
This building, but
You haven't spent money on this building in 30 years.
you haven't done anything to
Oh, yeah,
this
we have, they've
building.
updated this.
Yeah.
We got new tables and new carpet. We got a lovely drinking fountain out there. Can't you see it? No, Lily, look out that door.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the architect.
Okay. Well, I will do some introductions, and so I think is what we're gonna do. We have 30-minute time limits. We have two guests here today to present. And so while one group is presenting, we have some seats out in the lobby that you guys can sit at and join, and then I'll come and get you when the other one's done, and then we'll have the other one come back in, and then in about an hour, the board will be back for discussions, and there is 20 minutes for presenting for both groups, and then 10 minutes for Q&A. It doesn't have to be exact. That's kind of a ballpark, but we'll try to stick to 30 minutes each, just so we can stay on track. But thank you both for being here. Do you want to flip a coin for going first? I haven't thought that far ahead in the evening. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, well, SPT, since you're up front, you get to go first. And you guys can pull another chair up here and sit, or you're welcome to stand, whatever you're comfortable with. Do you need to plug in or anything?
Plug in, do I need to be up there at the?
Yeah.
no. But I ain't gonna say that.
I don't know, best place to stand if we're gonna.
Enjoy.
Yeah, there it is.
August is different. All right. She keeps me on track every day.
Well, we've been here before and thanks for having us back again. You guys all know Brandon being local, you know, and I'm very ties with SPT Architecture. We did last bond issue here, and Lois isn't here tonight, but she would be involved from the interior side of things. We can do the side. Our core concept is to listen. You know, we hear a lot of times architects don't listen, and that's something that we've heard from other clients of ours that we do a better job of, that and we give you what you want, and then we want to kind of tell you what we've seen in other places. That's how we, and throughout Kansas, that's how we lead and then elevate, but then it also comes down to being collaborative. We've had an officer in place now for 14 years. I think you may have heard me say before, I was a previous school board member for 12 years at Andale Garden Plain, which is Renwick School District. I completely understand wanting to interview. When I was school board president, we had an internal candidate for superintendent, and we still had interviews. I think I learned something, and I think the transparency is good, and so we don't take it for granted. But we do help you take our relationship and how much we've been involved with the district into account as well. And one of our strengths is we passed 14 out of 15 bond issues on the first try. We do have a process that will show you later on, and I think you've seen it a little bit, so we'll kind of speed through some of this. Welcome to that, Brandy, you can just keep going. We know you have a couple options, and the discussion you had earlier about, you know, what does an architect do and how they come into a community and get feedback? Well, you guys have been through this process. You guys have done facility studies. You know what you want. You just want to get some input from the community. And we found that doing like Survey Monkeys or and where we come into play is we don't go in and talk to all the community, but we provide tools for you guys to find that information out. So when we did Rollins County, for instance, we did a survey where we sent it out to the whole community. Both we had handwritten forms, and we also had electronic ones that we gathered, and then we really got a good sense of what the community wanted. So we take the information that you guys would want to present to them and communicate to them, and we facilitate that for you, because what we have found is that, you know, school districts this size, and our strength is school districts this size and lower, we just don't have the resources to do all this stuff. So we provide the tools so that you guys don't have to take that upon yourselves. So what we would do is we'd probably put these two options out there, maybe give some description, maybe talk about, are there things that you've seen that maybe you want to make sure that is heard from the community that might be needs, and then you can come back and you can adjust these if you want to, or have the conversations about, do we think we got it right, or do we need to, you know, make some adjustments for the final bond amount. We understand the impact of mill levies and how to communicate that to a community. Mill levies are hard for everybody to understand. And so we've been through it, and we know how to communicate that and help it, I think, make it a little bit easier for people to understand and the impact of it. In your comments earlier, Jason, about the impact of interest rates and interest paid on duration of a bond, that's something that probably wants to be talked about in that survey a little bit, so that people understand the implications of it. It's not just the initial bond amount, it's about also the extra interest that you pay over time on that. Go through this one.
And I've included this. I mean, we worked on your last bond issue. I've had an office in town for 14 years, and I've worked on a lot of different projects, whether it be small or large, for the district. And we've got all the floor plans of your buildings. I've been in the tunnels at Wakefield. They're tight, but I have been in there. But we can hit the ground running, and this is an example that Brett brought to you guys. I mean, Brett and I kind of discussed in my office, but he just dropped in and got the plans. We can put this together. I know this option shows a 4 classroom addition, and we might be looking at 3, or depending on how we program it, we might be looking at 2. But we can hit the ground running with these options, and we can portray, I mean, your different ideas to the community.
These are the 14 bond issues we've passed over the last several years. Again, various bond issue mill levy increases, neutral rates, we're keeping the tax rate neutral at least. Basically different durations of terms, different construction managers that we've worked with. So we really have a lot of experience working on all these kind of sizes of projects, and can help you understand that as well.
You might note that the
Those last 14 were all done, you know, the CMAR delivery method. So, and I mean, we've obviously worked under CMAR for all these bond issues, but I've helped the hospital go through the CMAR process. I've helped the county go through the CMAR process. I've helped the city. So we're very well versed in that.
One thing about the CMAR process, it's not a perfect process, but it probably is the best process. And the thing about it, that it allows, what you were talking about earlier, you can separate out projects so that local vendors have the opportunity to work, or local contractors have the ability to kind of right size a project for them. Maybe they can't do all the roofs on the bond issue, but they could do a roof, or local concrete guy, maybe he can't do all the concrete on the project, but he could do the concrete for all the sidewalks or site concrete. So it really gives you the flexibility to divide the project up however you want to best suit your needs.
Renderings, we can, I mean, as far as, you know, getting the information on whatever projects you decide to go forward with, we can get that, I mean, out to the public through renderings or even video walkthroughs. You all may have seen the video walkthrough that we generated for the Life Center. And so we have the capability to do all of that.
And it's really about communication, and we trying to figure out what's the right pieces of the bond issue to communicate. You know, for instance, the one down in Augusta, they really wanted to have a new entrance. Their entrance was terrible. No one can find it. They wanted an upgrade to the exterior of the building. So that was the focus of that one. We don't always focus on the exterior. Sometimes it's about interior spaces and how we're shaping education. So it's really kind of pick and choose what's important to each. What does each bond issue look like? Either just, a few of the contractor or construction managers that we've worked with. We know the ins and outs. Each of these have a little bit different approach on things. They have to submit, when we go through the interview process, they'll interview, but then they also have to submit their fees. Well, they all approach their fees a little bit differently. Some include things that others don't. We've had some up here talk about submitting a extra cost for, and this is after the fact, an extra cost for warranty work. Extra cost, actually, the newest one I had was, they said their profit wasn't included in their fee structure, and that's actually not on the state form. So, but that was discovered after they interviewed. It's like, wait a second, you guys, we asked you right up front this year, what are the things on the state form that aren't in your bid, and that came up after the fact. So knowing how each one of them operates is interesting for sure. And then I think you may have seen this previously, but this is our pre-bond election services. We think it has to be a grassroots effort. I think Jeff said earlier, it's like, you don't need an architect coming in a place center from out of town and telling you how to do things and how to raise your taxes and what should be included. Even though Brandon's locally, he's been a part of all this. We come in and help set up the parent community volunteers. But it's all that we kind of directed to be where it's led from the community, not even from the superintendent or from us, or even to a certain degree from the school board. It's really a community-led process, and they're the ones communicating it out to everybody. They're the ones that are here. They're the ones that everybody wants to hear from. They want to hear from us, and it needs to be community-driven. And then we have a campaign that's about 6 to 8 weeks long. So you really have, and I think somebody alluded to it earlier, until about the beginning of December to make a decision of what is included in the bond scope. And so what we would suggest doing, but everybody's different, and we're working with some that don't even do it this way, but having you guys who are administrators would pick 2 or 3 people each, and then we get a group together and we have to talk to them about, hey, what do they see is important? And then they bring those ideas to the table. At the same time, you guys have already done a lot of the legwork on this, and we're working up in Mankato and Rock Hills right now, and the school board really did all of it. And then now we're just starting to take it out to the public and present that for a November bond election. And we just had our first meeting with them, with the community and steering committee last week. So everybody's different. It's really however you guys want to do it.
This is bond calendar, excuse me for a second. This is what kind of a bond calendar could look like. We just, it's easier to read this if I hand out. This is how we would start, and one of the reasons that we've been so successful is that we put out a lot of information, and it's very well organized. So this is the timeline. This suggests getting the CMAR process started in the next couple of weeks. It's about a 6-week process. It would be nice to have have them on board before you make that decision, because ultimately they're the ones who have to buy into the numbers and have to agree with that scope of work is really the dollars that should be included. We like to see it more of a team effort, and make sure we have the right partner on board. CMA for two things that are nice about the CMAR process. One, you get it into your team, so you know you're going to work with. If you're, they come in here and interview, and you get to see who the project manager is, who's going to be on the job site, and who's going to lead you through the project. On a bid process, you don't get to see that. They can put whatever they want on the project. You can be their least experienced person that they have, just because they're trying to save costs. And you also really get to see the numbers, and it is the most transparent, competitively bid process, because they bid out everything and you see each number separately. So what this does is takes you through September through March, assuming you want to do a March vote, and kind of just takes you through the steps along the way, and what that would look like from us. During the bond campaign, we recommend a 6 to 8 week time frame, especially with the March vote. And then that has to be first Tuesday of March. Really, it would really get kicked off after the first of the year. In the meantime, we'd be putting all this information together along with help from the steering committee, and going through each of those committees. We had the voter registration, information central, and they are the ones that kind of help us message the bond, tell us what's going to resonate with the people in the community. Speakers Bureau, that takes on kind of a different feel and look in each community. Sometimes we're more part of that than others. It's better if we're not, but we'll step in and we'll always be here to help with some of the more difficult things to communicate, like mill levies and things like that. And they keep going, Brandon. Keep going again. So the county in is another one. I don't know if we did that last time. Basically, if you can get one yes vote for the number of students you have in your district, you're probably highly likely to pass your bond issue. So some communities try and get that number of yes votes up front, so they're pretty well sure that they're going to pass their bond issue. And then we send out all this information almost weekly during that 6 to 8 week campaign, just to build momentum up toward bond vote. These are some examples of what our marketing staff, what our staff does to create the information. This is a trifold brochure. This is a nice thing. You can just have a basketball games they hand out to people while they're just at the basketball game or in different areas of the community. Keep going through some of these. These are social media and different banners, and then you can help create a website, put information on the website. Yard signs and Facebook and pieces that help get put out. If there's somebody here locally that can help with Facebook or social media, that's great. We'll help provide content that they can just push out. So we really try and unload the burden of what this takes for people in the community to be a part of. And then we have these big mailers, and these big mailers are like in 14-point font. They go out to everybody, every address in the community to make sure everybody's communicated to. Nice thing about this, some people like to sit down in their chair and read. Some people like social media. We just try and hit a lot of different touch points with the community, so that everybody can feel communicated to the way they'd like to be, would like to receive information. And then we have a vote yes postcard that goes out about the week before the vote, just to remind everybody, because if there's one thing that can kill a bond vote, is happening, just not getting people out to vote will kill a bond issue. So we really try and build that momentum up to push things out towards that bond vote. We also consistent communication is key as well. We try to make sure messaging is consistent. There's going to be misinformation. Have a frequently asked question postcard that goes out to try and, you're gonna hear a lot of the same things. And so we put all that in a postcard that goes out about midway through the bond campaign to say, hey, here's what we're hearing. These are the right answers to all this information. And when we did the Heston one, we had a pretty strong no campaign against that one. And what we did, even a week before, we heard that some people had received a no vote information that was misleading. We were able to meet on a Wednesday before the next Tuesday vote. We got another postcard out on Friday, so they had it before their vote on Tuesday. So we just really kind of keep ahead of it and try to get all the right information out to you. So I think what we had in our proposal is that, so what does all this cost? I think we had $10,000 for the pre-bond work that we do. We will spend $50,000 to $70,000 of our own time and efforts putting all this information together. But we know schools don't have $70,000 to $100,000 to allocate for a bond issue. And it's really kind of more use it as marketing. And also because this is what we do. And just trying to get back a little bit to the school space. So
Question?
sorry.
That's what I said, to try to do all that on their own is impossible. Without enough information, everything.
In the time.
It'd be like, yeah, even that, I think our own people need to do something like that. If they were not doing anything on the other. So our own cost started initially would be $10,000.
Right. And so I see on your calendar, you guys I imagine this is this what you were thinking to get the CMAR process started fairly soon? Yeah. To start, it's like a 6-week process in order to get through the CMAR process. So we thought we put starting on the 17th, but we get started. The whole goal was to get it done before you guys have to make a decision on what's included in the bond so that you have somebody on board that's going to agree to that scope of work. Because really the bond amount is going to be what's on that vote, right? But we want to make sure the CMAR is on board with and aligned to that same scope. Where we've seen some differences in the different construction managers, some of them will be more conservative than others. And so if they want to have 10% contingency or 20% contingency, that can affect how much you can get in your bond. And so it's better if we have them on board up front, so they're in agreement with what we think the numbers would be, that we can have those conversations before the vote. Now, it works both ways. We've done it to where the CMAR is not selected until after the bond vote. That's okay too. We just have to make sure that when we do go out and go through that process, that when we interview them, what we try and do is have somewhat defined scope of work so that they have something to fees to, but we can select them afterwards too. We just have to really hone in on when we interview them, saying, hey, this is the scope. Make sure you tell us that in your interview that you can do this amount of scope for what's included in our amount. So, I've had some that say they don't think they can do it. I've had others that say they can't. Usually the one that says they can't do it doesn't get selected. So they would, if you bring a CMA architect, then CMAR on, is what I hear you saying is the way you say that earlier is so that they can verify, for example, like Jason's question on addition and what it would actually cost. If they're on board, they're gonna be sitting here and they're gonna say, yes, we can do this for that amount, correct? I mean, we're working with several of them on several different projects right now, so we pretty much know what they're gonna budget. But it's just nicer to have them on board if you can.
Well, and sometimes they bring, even better idea or a better product or idea to the table, because like on Marion's field house we finished, we were looking at doing a pre-engineered building, but then law company was the contractors on that, and they came forward and they said, they were like, we can build this out of block. I mean, for the same amount.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just a collaboration between us and them and getting you the most bang for your buck.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks for letting us interview. It's good to see you all again and we don't take it for granted being local. Really hope we can have you guys again. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Remain on time, August?
Yeah, man. 9 minutes to spare.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What kind of connector you got? Jack on there.
Should be mine.
Perfect. We know how to do that.
Load it.
For you.
Thank you. Exactly.
Six days, so that becomes. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. One minute. Yeah.
Welcome.
Great, thanks for having us. Sounds like you guys have done a ton of work and we're glad to be here to show you a little bit about what we do. My name is Maria Katina. I'm an architect and principal with HGK. Noah here will be the project manager. I'm the point of contact. I'm from Nemaha County. I have most of my family still lives up there. But I live in Topeka, Lawrence, and Noah lives in Lawrence. Also on the screen here, Alyssa Johnson. She has a marketing business degree. She helps a lot with the bond support and would be helping with any engagement that we have. And then Maddie Stafford is an interior architect. PK Mar Engineers is another engineering partner that we work with that I believe has seen and been a part of some of your projects. So we are just an architecture firm. We don't have any engineers on staff, but through that and through our K-12 that we do, we touch every part of the school district. So signage, preservation, furniture, wayfinding, programming, construction, administration, any part of a facility at a school, we've been a part of that. We do work in this area. We have an office in Topeka as well as in Kansas City. We have about 47 people between the two offices. And I've worked at Concordia, did the CT edition at Mission Valley, I'm doing a church in Hanover right now. Noah is finishing up some work in Nemaha Central right now. So we've worked with a lot of school districts. KASB, we're a supported partner with them and do a lot with them and do similar sorts of presentations just to help people understand the bond process and what all goes into that. For HGK and our experience that we do work large and small. Our Kansas City office does a lot of the Kansas City districts and projects. And then we do a lot of the projects on this side of Topeka. it's really these projects that I like to be a part of, being from a smaller town, but I understand how just little things can make a big impact. That having flooring, in a classroom makes such a big difference to that teacher that's getting that new flooring. And that impact is what helps drive me into making the most out of any project that I'm able to help support.
So we've heard a lot about, deferred maintenance, maintaining facilities, things like that. That's one of the big things that we do. We understand that it's not just all the, glitz and glamour, getting new additions left and right. But making buildings work and making them work for the kids and the staff that use them. It's often the nuts and bolts behind the scenes, and we have a lot of experience with that. It is some of the glitz and glamour. Like Maria said, getting new finishes, a secure entry, being able to provide that additional little bit of oomph to these schools, and not just it makes a big difference to the kids and the staff. And then security. We understand that, schooling has changed. Unfortunately, it has changed in some ways. And so part of our goals is to provide safe and secure facilities that are, inviting and welcoming, but also secure and safe for the students. We know how to stretch a dollar. We work with budgets large and small, and we understand that, when it comes to prioritizing, sometimes our decisions have to be made, but our goal is to help accomplish as many of those goals that you have with the budgets that you have, and still provide an exciting facility for your staff and students. And then doing so sustainably, whether it's working with recycled materials, LED lighting, manufacturers that work with sustainable practices. Part of our focus goes into providing buildings that are built with materials that will last, but that also leave a better future for the kids.
So these are some of the recent bond issues that we've been a part of. Emporia, they had a larger one where they chose not to consolidate, and so it included storm shelters and several improvements to each of their elementary schools. Nemaha Central, that's the one Noah is finishing up. Mission Valley, that was a fun one where we added on to a CTE building, and also did some athletic improvements, things like playgrounds for the elementary school, and new baseball, softball field. Abilene, this last year we finished science classrooms for them, and before that we did a larger bond issue for them a few years ago. Valley Falls was 3.1 million. Each of these projects, we were working alongside Piper Sandler for finance council, and then these were also all construction manager at risk partners on these projects. So for our process and how we work, there's really three parts to this. There's the plan of determining what that scope of the bond is, the campaign, because we have to inform everybody and make sure that they understand what's being included, and then implement. And that's the portion of the project where you're doing the design and the construction part of it. So for the plan portion of it, we break that down into 5 steps, where first you're gathering all the data, which you guys have already done, understanding what that vision is. So whenever you have a laundry list of 1,000 things that you need to do, and there's always $50 million worth of things, and there's only so many dollars that you have to spend, that tying that back to that bigger vision helps you prioritize and understand within that what you're trying to accomplish. The program, so refining those concepts, and then the stakeholder engagement. This is something that has drastically changed for us. Whenever we, some of the first bonds I started working with 15 years ago, how we ran that campaign versus how we run it now has changed, and largely due to social media, and just people as a whole. They want to give feedback more than ever. And so that's how including that stakeholder, that community engagement. That's something I'm glad and excited for you to consider, because I think that that's going to be a big selling point for informing everyone. And then that fifth part is that resolution. If we're doing a facilities master plan for this, where you're doing the assessment, going to a resolution, that next piece that you have to keep on there is also that capital outlay plan. So you have the list, and then you can move things from bond to capital outlay, but understanding that whole list and helping you with building a plan is that next piece. Once you have the resolution that you continue to maintain, to understand how to communicate that to your voters. And then the election. So from the time of the election to the vote, that is a standard campaign, and with all of the campaigns that we've done, or a standard time frame, those 90 days, we've had some schedules that can help with how to break that down. So since you have the VHS report, that first thing that we would do is take that report and verify that, understand each of the facilities. We were able to tour them last week. And so we would go through and verify these needs as well as the cost, and help with prioritizing that. And that next piece is the community. And that's the next step, whether that's through focus groups or facility committee, but defining that vision to them. That's the leadership that you're bringing to this, and then seeing if there is any other things that are big tickets or triggers for them. Everybody has a different lens to the district, and so at least allowing them that opportunity to provide feedback, they're more acceptable to, even though they maybe didn't get the item that they thought was, they were given that opportunity to get that feedback, and that helps them be more acceptable to what that final resolution is. But we work with that committee, with the community to do surveys, or I think a focus group would be a great idea.
So we know all of this has been born of, the bond issue has been born of your goals and values for the district, right? You want to provide safe buildings, you want to maintain the facilities and provide facilities for future generations, maintain that long-term efficacy and providing a sustainable facility. And so in the communication with the community, it's always important to refer back to the goals. Why are we doing this? Why does the board believe that this is an important thing for the district? And then as we get through design, we can always refer back to this as well. How is this meeting these goals, these long-term goals that we've set, so that we understand that we're meeting all those. So we've done a bit of research into the district. We understand that it's quite a large district geographically, and we understand that there's challenges that's presented with the size of the district. But we know that as you guys have discussed this bond planning, it's in an attempt to meet the needs of students all the way from Longford up to Morganville. It's a cohesive thing, and so as we go out to the community, it's important for everybody to feel heard and to understand that, you know, this is not just for Clay Center or Wakefield, but it is for the entirety of the district. So based on what we've gathered, we'll put together just some sample plans that could be used as we go forward to discuss with the community, but simplifying and clarifying things so that it's easy to understand, whether it's here's the secure entry and where it would be implemented, playground improvements, roof replacements, classroom additions. So this is at Lincoln. It's just kind of a sample based on what we've heard, so that we are able to make it clear to everybody and communicate effectively what they're trying to understand and what they're going to be discussing and voting on. So similar, we go through all of these with people, and you know, there's various options that you can present, but as you go further down the road, these kind of hone in. But on the pre-bond campaign, it's about clearly and effectively communicating a maintenance, consolidation, and being safe with that.
So what we worked to determine what that scope is and what that resolution is when we have the campaign portion of it. Because you are
further along down this process. We have some more detail on that. That we can answer questions on how we anticipate that engagement going, but whenever it's through determining the scope, we're answering those questions of who, what, when, where, and why. Why are we doing this for the district? Who was involved? And this is the part that has changed for us in terms of having a successful campaign, is that you're able to share that story. Like, this wasn't just people in a room that decided what the scope is, but that there have been other community members that have contributed to what it is. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that just because somebody isn't elected, they may not be acceptable or desirable to come talk to someone who's elected. So trying to create a format where everyone can give feedback has been something that has been a part of this process. So if it's a focus group or facilities committee, we recommend getting a diverse group of community members from that, having the board a part of that, so that we don't want this committee to make a recommendation to you that you're not going to support. That doesn't do either one of you any good. It just creates further division. But if we can have the board recommend a couple people is how we often see this, but then having the district work through and make sure that you have that cross group of people, that it's teachers, and we've had students on this, retired people that used to have kids in the district, kids that don't have them anymore. But people are less likely to just go out and get feedback or get feedback from somebody that has to be in an organized manner. So with this facility committee, understanding what their goals are, that they're giving feedback to you at the end of the day. Absolutely, you guys are making the resolution and you're voting for that resolution. That resolution doesn't necessarily mean you're for everything that's in it, but that you are for bringing it to the community to allow them to give that vote. Because without bringing them anything, they don't have a vote on doing a resolution or doing a bond or not. So being able to have a resolution of items allows your community to give a feedback on it. And we work with them to prioritize those needs or to get feedback on how they see the priority being. And then also, then we like to ask them to help with the campaign portion of it. So within a campaign, the district is giving information, but there's also a yes committee usually alongside of that. And we help with informing them about what's finally included in that. So they've given that feedback, we do the resolution, and then we help communicate that with the facilities committee. And we're at these meetings with them, understanding different subcommittee roles. We have a bond manual that we use that helps with us explaining these different roles of fundraising, outreach, participation, and communication, what that means within a subcommittee. This allows for a peer-to-peer communication about what's included in that scope alongside of the district giving information. So for the campaign and those portions of it, understanding how the campaign works, what the district can do versus the committee, targeting who would be included in that campaign, and then campaign material we help with from the start to the end. We have a lot of times helping with a website, information, flyers, mailers, doing town halls or community tours, the renderings. Those are all things that you as the district want your patrons to be informed in one way or another. They understand what's included. Misinformation and voter apathy are really the two biggest things that kill a bond. If you go out and you ask somebody, do you support this for the school? Yes. And do you support this enough to go out and vote? Probably, unless it doesn't rain or my kids don't have soccer practice or all of these other things that make it harder for them to go out and vote. And so some of our tools are meant to help with that. With some of these districts, it's not necessarily been a separate vote, yes, but it's maintained as the just an informational campaign. But that is something that with the vote, yes, you can do things like the yard sign and put that information out or do your own flyer. Visualizations or renderings, flyer rounds. These are all QR codes. We use this a lot in our materials and flyers that we send out on websites, where you can click on the QR code. And then it does the flyer round video so that people understand for each of the buildings that's included in that. So we are here throughout the entire process. We're always responsive. I will be at each of these meetings to help with communicating this, and I really want to help you along this process on how we see this be successful. Another one that's pretty common is with that voter turnout, looking at the number of registered voters that you have. You need to verify this with the county clerk, but this is from printed documents what we could find. That there's 2,100 registered voters. If you have a 50% turnout, that's 1,050 total voters, and you need 50% plus one, and you can count your way to a win. You've seen districts that have had multiple failed ones, but this has been one of the things that has helped. And so we have seen this where you actually track the votes and track people. So if you have somebody that is on that committee, you can get the list of registered voters, and then you have 10 or have 50 people count 10 people that they know, and they're tracking who they are. You have to be unique votes because we can't all have the same 10 best friends, and track actually who that is and how they see that. And then the day of the election, you call them, you say, hey, did you go vote? You're responsible for texting them, calling them. Do you want have me watch your kid or feed your dog or whatever you need to do to get you out there and try to help combat that voter trafficking. These are a few things that we started on some campaign material that we would use or could use for a yard sign or campaign video. Decision process, the state outlines that. So helping you with determining what construction manager you go with, if you do go that way versus the bid. The state outlines that, and so we have all the documents and can help you with that timeline that they very specifically outline for that 3-step process. For a resolution, so that you would have to have that resolution in by December 1st, and then that campaign would be from December to March, if that is when you go for the bond election. The design will take 3 to 8 months. You're gonna want something that first summer, so I see this as probably being a couple phases, like figuring out what are the things that don't have long lead items that aren't gonna hang you up when school starts, and get some things going. Most construction takes 2 summers. It's hard, especially if you're doing a good thing, you have to move one person into the building to renovate another piece of it. And so the 2 summer construction timeframe is pretty standard. So we do that very quickly, but we've done a lot of K-12, and we do it because we're passionate about it, and we want you all to have good education environments, and we know it means a lot for your students and for your community. We're transparent and dedicated to this. We'll communicate as quickly as we can for you. And also this is a long-term relationship. So it's important that you have fun while you're doing it and you work with someone that you're comfortable with. Questions?
So what, initially this, because it doesn't pass, but what's this initial cost? As far as, what it would cost us?
Okay, so how I broke this down is that the first piece is that verification of the facility assessment. We do this hourly, not to exceed. So if you don't need all these things or want all these things, it's just paying for the time. If you do want that, so that first piece is the verification of the plan and the scope in dollars. And then the next piece is that engagement. So this is planning on, you guys talked about surveys and maybe doing like 1 or 2 meetings. I was thinking a little more than that, but if we can totally fix it that way, if we can do it with a focus group and really narrow it down around the priorities within that. And so that would be less spent on that piece of it. And then the bond campaign portion of it is for the renderings, the posters, the fly arounds, and participate in those town halls. So this is about a little less than 0.25% of the anticipated bond amount is pretty standard. And so this is how, based off of our anticipated engagement of what we saw. So it would exceed that. I do not like to come back, I need to ask for more money or to keep doing this. So, no, it's not fun. I'd rather just not do that. This also includes mechanical engineer, where I talked to them, and they would help with verifying some of those numbers. I was honestly blown away with the condition of the facility. The districts I work with, they always have either really good HVAC and not good roofs, or good roofs and not HVAC. That I think through the lease purchase that you did with the HVAC and the leasing partner has set you up to where you do have some things and some options. It's not like you're in dire need and it's so clear you need to do this or this, that you do have some options in it. But I think that that's part of the fun and of it too, just understanding how to make it the best for everybody who has that different perspective.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Give us a call if you need anything.
Thank
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Right, safe, guys. Thank you.
Thoughts? Brett? Anybody on board?
One thing you want to say was, you know, at the size of bond we're looking at, they're 5.85%. HPA and SBT is 6.4% of the bond.
That price has to be added to the bond. Along with the contingency of whatever the construction matters. So a $10.2 million maintenance bond could turn into a $12 million bond. Pretty easy. Depending on who you use.
You know, I did a lot of interviews and research of people who've used districts and other companies have used both of these partners. And they both came highly recommended. I think they'd both be really, really good partners. It was, I didn't find anything that was, you know, dependent on you ask, people have different experiences and levels. And so I do think they would both be really, really good partners. I think there's a lot of advantage and a lot of value and local and having somebody in your town and in your county from a resource standpoint.
First time I ever interviewed anybody and they told me they're gonna take a $50,000 or $60,000 hit and they'll do it for 10. He admitted that right there. I mean, why would you say that and you're trying to get a job? Well, we're gonna spend 60,000, but we'll do it for 10 for you. That's not very realistic to me. So are you gonna add the 50,000 on the end?
Yeah, they're making up for it.
I know, but I'm just saying, you know, that's just not something you really say in an interview when you're trying to get a job, I wouldn't think.
That wasn't my perspective. My perspective is that they want the business, so they know that they might lose that money up front in trying to get this bond to pass, because it's beneficial to them to get the bond to pass. And that they are only gonna put 10,000 that cost to us versus the other ones 20 to 25,000 cost to us. And that's how much they're gonna invest to get it to pass.
The other one will still be, the bottom line, the other one would still be cheaper if you just go off the numbers, just because of the fees. You know, there's a $15,000 difference there. But the fees,
15% or,
I'm just saying in the,
point five.
Yeah.
right, I'm just saying initially, there's
Oh,
$15,000
yeah,
difference.
yeah,
But their fees
their fees at the end.
is like $60,000 difference in my math.
Yeah.
You know, so that's
I would
around,
say they're making it up in the end.
around $40,000, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I have preached and when I ran on the board of staying local and as much as we possibly could, when it was reasonable to do that, I do think that plays a part, but, you know, we also have to do what's best and who we think will do the best job for us. But it really opens your eyes on all the stuff they will do, both to come to help us get whatever through, whatever we decided to do. So. Start out first.
I can.
And we vote.
I move to approve SPT as the architectural firm to assist the district with planning and preparation of projects related to the upcoming bond election.
First. The second, all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, got the other motion then?
Move to approve HTK architects. And see that. Counselor Renfro is reading it, I'm sorry.
HTK.
I move to approve HTK architects as the architectural firm to assist the district with planning and preparation of projects related to the upcoming bond election.
We have a motion? Second? Second, all those in favor, of HTK? Four, all those opposed? Three, got that, so we got HTK. But it's like any vote, we'll move forward, and I feel good about it. So Brett, I appreciate, I think that was two very good new options that you brought forth, so. You can go wrong with it. Appreciate that, no doubt, no doubt. Very good. Very good, okay, next. Next is, so I asked Brett, put this on here, snow route. We don't have to decide tonight, but you know, there's things that they're possibly using snow routes after multiple days. You know, when school's been out multiple days, the snow routes and if people get their kids to certain roads and then you continue to have school. Okay, and so I just think that, I had a couple of questions on it and again for next month, but you know, I worry about on that, putting pressure on young drivers getting into town that drive to school out the rural communities. We do have a big rural community. I worry about teachers getting into class because of things like that. And then activities, you know, the pressure it puts on kids, again, young to drive to get there to practice. So I just have questions like, if we did this, even if we did emergency routes, to me, it would make sense that we still wouldn't do activities, because why would we want people out there traveling to games and stuff like that when there's still bad roads, or to practice when there's still bad roads? So I guess my thing is just a little bit of clarification and more specific, you know, on when it would be implemented.
I think the
And
best.
bring it to the board, you know.
I think the first thing is it's super, if you research many districts, it's a very common practice, which doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just is a very common practice. But I think last year, the best example was after we had the big snow and then the winds that followed the next few days. When 95% of your roads are passable and drivable and safe, but there's 4 or 5 east-west roads that are blown in the country that we had to close school for because we couldn't get down 4 or 5 roads. But the rest of the roads were extremely safe to get to where we could Wind is usually our biggest killer after a snow, and the biggest reason we can't have school because those county east-west roads are blown in by the north wind, and then
You
we're
clean them and then they turn around and get
Yeah.
closed up again.
and then we're shut down when,
Right.
and everyone's looking out and looking at Highway 15 and the rest of the roads are going, why aren't we in school? Well, it's because a handful of county roads we can get. Sure. I think is that fair, Mike? The best example?
Right. And I'm good, I understand the intention, but the other part is like, how would we handle? I don't wanna take on that liability or concern of kids driving in here, even though there's a few roads bad and.
Would it be similar to late
Phil.
start where there's no practice if we have late start?
In the morning.
Yeah.
It's already on the district website, so. Is it something we need to vote on or just something happening?
Well, I don't know, it's marked as information, I didn't know that it needed to be board approved, but we can take it down if we need to.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Like I said, that's my concerns is people driving into town anyway, there's not a few. And do we go to Marysville or something and for a basketball game that night and. Well, we've got certain roads in the county and we're on emergency road routes and. I would feel safer and, is that we don't do the activities, because obviously there's roads around that still aren't. Good, we're doing it to get kids back in school, and then again, has it come up enough to worry about it, we were out of school less than Manhattan, Junction City. A lot of them were this last year, even though we have more roads. And big areas, so, is it even worth?
So like,
That's.
so like on late
I
starts,
just a discussion.
on late starts, we do allow practice. And activity, like when we do a late start,
Not morning.
not in the morning, in the afternoon.
And you also have to think on these is, the only reason we would implement it is if the main roads were good. So if you have activities, typically it's gonna be highway travel.
So I understand, people who live in the country are
Exactly,
gonna
they have
have
to get to
to,
the sports, I understand.
and they gotta get home that
Yeah.
night, and so. That's, and again, just discussion purposes,
Honestly, I think we did a better job, or you guys did a better job cleaning our facilities off than the city did the streets. And that big storm, it was a disaster in town, but they did a really good job.
I do like the ability to, if we can get 95% of our kids here, to go ahead and have school. And do what we can to get their other 5% if the parents feel that it's safe to get them that far.
Anybody else? Any comments on that? So I guess if we could for next month, just get a little bit more detail of those final things, right? Just put a little information thing for us to look at. How
There's a deal already on there, Dale's every route.
Right, how we're gonna handle activities. I don't think that's all in there, is it? How we're gonna
I
handle
don't
it?
think. I handle activities probably enough to the busing routes, is it?
What's that?
I said that, how they
No, I mean,
handle
I think we need
activities.
to decide, do we want to, that to be a part of when we do this?
Although I guess if in the morning the county hasn't got to them, but while everybody's at school, they could have that road cleared by the end of the
But the
day.
wind
So it
blows, they're
really
not
needs
going
to
to.
be,
I guess it's still, the wind blows are not going to.
well, unless the wind stops, you know what I mean? So I mean, it's still gonna be a noon decision on practices, right, or activities.
We usually make those late in the day, on those days, yeah, depending on road conditions and what's going on.
Okay.
Appreciate the time on it though.
Very good. All right, boundary change.
Yeah, I don't think this is anything new. It's just a formal approval from each district to say that they're willing to take on this boundary in the event 334 does go through the full dissolvement process, which does include the state board taking some action. And so all 5 of us agreed to take it to our boards for formal action so that then that could be included in the state board packet. Because ultimately the state board will have to determine and approve the boundaries for the closed district. And so the hope would be that And the state board saw that 5 other local boards agreed that they would go with that.
Me and Dave attended the meeting with Brett when we did this, and this is the same boundary that we took at that time. That we felt was best for us, so it has not been changed since then.
And there's a little PowerPoint in there if you're curious about what other districts are taking on versus us. I don't know that I need to bore you with reading our simplified legal. And that was, we all just developed our own simplified legal description, knowing that at some point, sometime it'll probably have to get more formal, but we were hoping this would be enough for the state board to act on.
So are we gonna pick the kids up where we always have out there, or are we going to Milton?
We're going to Miltonville now. You know, we're going into town right now. That may change if this all goes through. There's some, because technically it wouldn't be our boundary anymore, but maybe not. We'll have to just cross that.
So we have something from them saying we can come into their district?
Sorry.
Do we have something from Southern Cloud saying we can come into their district?
Yeah, I mean, it's an open boundary now. I mean, they don't
Well, not yet, but
have a school there, and so the current current board are, I would think I'm safe to talk on their behalf, but just want their kids to have access to go to school somewhere, so they're.
I move that should USD 334 complete the dissolution process, then the USD 379 Board of Education approves the proposed boundary changes as presented.
We have a motion. And a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. As a side note, I did see where they listed all their properties with the real estate agent.
you can buy a school for $350,000.
So, that's there. Very good. Next meeting, grounds and maintenance.
What are we gonna, what is that? What do we
That's
do?
just their annual report.
Annual report.
Yeah. They'll have them and then IT and then food service, and then between now and January or December. Inspiration will be in there.
Anything else tonight? Anybody knows of? If they'd like, as always, you can email me or Brett or August, and we'll talk about it on the agenda planning. If not, I think we'll take a short break. And then we'll come back. 5 minutes.
Oh. Can't complain.
Have a good day.
It rained all day down where I was at.
Where's that now?
Well, west of Minneapolis.
Well, that's what I remember. We had flash flood warnings out there in Michigan County.
Some buffalo, out there going
Oh, so we asked, oh,
Yeah.
thank you. That was very nice of you. Yeah, I heard that they were just downpoured in some areas.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't get that.
See you later.
That's.
I really like that skirt. It's a
Down
beautiful
there,
color.
I mean.
I've done well 2 times in a row. Like last time. You know how I've had.
With trees, almost
Yeah.
weekend.
About my wedding color.
And you'll.
It's almost my wedding color.
Like what?
Oh,
Over like a 4-year period.
Preston said that quail.
I like it.
There are some quail, and I always hate shooting quail, because I grew up without any quail, and it's like, and you get those guys from out of state come down and they'll hunt that covey until it's gone.
They'll hunt it till, yeah, till it's gone, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah, he's been building, they're gonna call it the Rooster Shack, but
Uh-huh,
the little lounge and got
Yeah.
a kitchen in it.
yeah,
They'll put a TV in there.
Yeah,
Feed them.
guys
lunch
come-
or
yeah.
breakfast and. But he's got, I think about every weekend, starting the 1st of October, almost to Christmas, booked already.
good. Well, and that's the other thing too, that it would even help his business, if they were if the bird population on the public hunting was better, just more people would be coming down and more people would be, contacting him for stuff too.
He got some. We should do all that. So. They have a sale, they-
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, those guys like that Boone and whatever, like fishing on the hook and
Yeah,
stuff.
crazy.
They're all- and they're- Because there's some stimulation, but that's not just, they're just letting it go, they're stopping that.
Yeah. And that thing is just blown up.
It'd be the same thing if they did with pheasants and stuff and that, upland hunting.
Preston's got, I think he told me he's got 12,000, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
I see the Facebook thing, I think that's what it.
Yeah.
They're quail.
Really?
And they're twice the size of a quail.
So then they come back and.
No. They're stupid. They land, you gotta walk up. They're pretty scary. Yeah, they're fun to shoot.
Yeah.
Fun to shoot. We're trying to, want to build a tower so we can do a European tower.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we took a John Deere, put a basket on the end of it, raised him up in the middle of the cedar trees, and we had 8 guys on one side and 7 guys on the other. We just started throwing birds out.
Yeah.
Every 10th bird is a blackbird. That was the money. Okay. You can shoot that when you're in the money. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Son-in-law line, we got to use the ditch.
Is what?
Son-in-law line, we got to use the ditch witch.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I seen it. It was parked down on my lot there in Wakefield and went outside. I went down there one morning. I thought, somebody stole that trencher. It was sitting there and I told Preston, I said, did you drive your trencher out to the farm? No. Somebody came and got it. I think, I thought somebody stole it.
Oh, I tell you what, man, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had that, trencher. Skid steer.
Yeah.
Didn't even make it maybe 4 feet for that.
Well, Preston, he built those flight pens and he,
Don't want you to stay anymore.
but he built those.
Down 4 feet.
He built those flight pens at his bird deal and he put chicken wire 30 inches in the ground all the way around each one of them flight pens so the coons can't dig in. Well, he's got 8 of those flight pens are 750 feet long and 75 feet wide. Well, the trench all the way around one and trench 3 sides of another one, 3 sides. So he had some guy come give him a bid. The bid was like $23,000 to trench all.
Yeah.
I think most of the ones were good to go.
So.
Yeah.
He bought that trencher for less than 10.
We'll resume our meeting, for executive session. I move we go into executive session to discuss personnel pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under KO Bank at the open meeting shall resume at, 8:35. The executive session should include the board, superintendent, and Kevin. Second, all those in favor? Motion carries.
I think I have it in there, right? I don't know why it's notifying you, well, 7-0 on everything.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, though.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll double check. You've been walking everywhere.
Love it.
Made your face in it.
It was good. Really good.
Resume the meeting. Well, next item is, early graduation. So I moved to approve the early graduation request as long as the student has successfully completed 25 credit hours. First and second, any other discussion?
I thought we had something about that had to be approved before that semester started. And maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
I might be wrong, but I mean, here we are, month in already. You know, and now she's wanting to, or graduate or whoever it is, you know. But, and maybe there isn't nothing, but that's okay. I'm not against it, but I think there's a policy that when you gotta do that, or when, I mean, maybe we don't have a date on it, but.
I couldn't.
I got it.
Well, I can look it up.
I don't right here. It's be in place 4 months prior to the student's planned completion date.
4 months, okay. 4 months. Right at 4 months.
Right.
Yeah, because the semester ends what, December 15th, 18th, 20th? And this is the 8th, so yeah, okay.
And she submitted it the 22nd of August, so.
Well, yeah. But we didn't approve it until now, so.
Anyway, first and second, right?
Got first and second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. I move to approve personnel report, including supplemental updates as presented.
Second.
Second, any discussions on that? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
And the second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Appreciate everybody's time tonight.